How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Family. We are back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be looking at Game Week 4 wildcard drafts. That's right, everyone's probably panicking. They, didn't like their team in Game Week 3 because everyone's had an absolute shocker, so I can understand why people are hitting the wildcard button. And we're going to be seeing which ones I approve of and the structures that we're going to be seeing a lot of potentially going into Game Week 4 for those that are on a wildcard. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. It greatly helps out the channel. And also leave a comment down below as to who you're going to be looking in for your wildcard team going into Game Week 4, as well as hit that notification bell so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch as well, PilotFlame226 on those platforms. So without further ado, let's get into these wildcard drafts. So the first draft that we have here for you is probably one of the most template that I could kind of come up with, or kind of one that I thought people might be, kind of going towards. This is based on a £100 million budget, so you can make these drafts given the current prices of the players as of me recording today, the 29th of September. And this is with £100 million, so no price increases, no nothing. This is how much the team would cost if you bought the players right now, today being the 29th. Now that can change. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been skyrocketing in price. Justin's been going up. Jimenez has been going up. All these sorts of players have changed value. So you have to pay attention as to how much money you have and how much you can actually afford based on this team. But we'll run through pretty quickly. It's pretty standard. It's a 3-4-3. Martinez in goal, saved a penalty in one of the previous game weeks, doing well for himself. He does have a tough fixture, Liverpool at home, but I think he could be one of the best value picks at 4.5. And he's going to get saves versus Liverpool, no doubt about that, especially from Mohamed Salah, who's also in the team. And you'll see a Liverpool midfielder in all three of these drafts that we have. In terms of the way the formation is going to kind of work, we do have Lamptey on our bench. So basically you pick the best between Taylor and Justin, and Lamptey going into defense, so you pick 2 out of the 3, and then you just play Trent game in and game out. With the midfield, I've had Fernandes in there. He does have 2 somewhat favorable fixtures versus Spurs and Newcastle. Then it gets a little bit tougher with Arsenal and Chelsea, although those are home fixtures, and he is on penalties. United didn't play well, and he ended up with a double-digit score and maximum bonus points, so penalty takers are key. And if you look at the team, we do have 3 of those penalty takers in our midfield, in De Bruyne, in Salah, and Bruno Fernandes. And also I believe Jimenez takes penalties for Wolves, so that makes 4 out of the front 7, as it were. In the bench, we still have Mitchell there as well, and we have Burke, who's a 4.5 midfielder playing out of position. He's playing up front for Sheffield United, a good bench option. He came in for Podence for me this week and got me 3 points. Who I think Podence will come back in. He just had a knock, so he'll be back in sure enough, and I think he's going to look quite good. And yeah, I think it's a pretty standard team. There's going to be times where you're going to put in Lamptey over Justin, or Taylor over Justin, or Lamptey over Taylor, and all different combinations that you can come up with. And there's going to be situations where the player on your bench is going to get a clean sheet and the one you put in isn't going to get one. So I think there's a risk element in that. However, I think that these 3 defenders are going to offer quite a lot, even if they don't keep a clean sheet. So we've seen Justin is going to be in for the long term. Ricardo Pereira has been, pushed back until potentially after the 2nd international break, which gives Justin a lot more games up until game week 8 and further on. And he may go in at center back depending on how he continues to play. Taylor's going to be a mainstay in the team as long as they have injuries. And Lamptey is obviously doing quite well for himself at Brighton. They do have a tough fixture versus Everton in this game week, which is why we've gone Taylor versus Newcastle away, who have looked dreadful in terms of just creating chances at all. And then James Justin, West Ham at home. Even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, we've seen that he can score or provide for the team. And then up front, we've kind of gone for the most sensible picks. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been on fire, still has great fixtures. Raul Jimenez has a great run of fixtures, is on penalties, and is the main, attacker for Wolves. And Bamford's been on fire. He is going up against City, but again, City are fallible at the back. And then we just have the pretty standard, City mid and Liverpool mid in there. That could be Mane as well. It doesn't really matter too much. They're both going to end up with anywhere from 18 to 20 goals, maybe even more, with like 5 to 10 assists or something like that by the end of the season. The only reason I would choose Salah, we do have Mane in the next draft, but I think that Salah just has, more in his locker and more, available and licensed to shoot. And with the penalties, as we've seen, people are just going to start kicking the ball at defenders' hands, and he's going to get penalties alongside that. So I think he's a better pick overall. Like I said, we do have Mane in one of the drafts, just kind of just change up the flavor of things. And I think people may go for Mane as more of a differential pick over to Salah. But I think this is something you're going to see pretty similar to a lot of people's drafts if they're wildcarding this week. You're going to see a lot of Salah. You're going to see a lot of De Bruyne. You're going to see a lot of Podence if he's fit. Jimenez, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Bamford, these sorts of players. And I think Martinez could also provide great value in goal. And we have the backup Steer as well, who also plays. I forgot to change the graphic for him, which future Pilot Flame does change in the next draft, so don't worry about that. He does have Liverpool at home, so if Martinez doesn't play, Steer was the one that was on the bench, so he's going to be the likely backup. So you get a 8.5 million goalkeeper pairing where you have both goalkeepers for Aston Villa ready to go. The next draft that we have here costs 99.3 million in squad value based on a £100 million budget with 0.7 million in the bank at the current price of all the players if you were to buy them straight out of the of your transfers. If you saved zero value whatsoever and haven't lost any and gone below 100 million, that would be quite devastating. We've gone up with a slightly bit of a different system. We've gone with 2 cheaper midfielders, and we've tried to see what type of front line we could get, especially for players that take penalties as a forward. So we know Harry Kane definitely takes penalties, and Spurs have a good run of fixtures after Manchester United, but he's shown that he can score against everyone. If they do get a dodgy penalty, he's probably going to score because he's very good at taking them. Richarlison, we've seen taken Everton's first penalty of the season. Now whether he continues on those, we'll have to see, but he's only 0.6 million higher than Calvert-Lewin at the time of recording. So again, he's had his fair share of chances, so he could have potentially have scored more. And then Jimenez, we've spoken on him already, and we've gone with the triple, the triple Wolves here: 1 in defense, 1 in midfield, 1 in attack. And I think this is probably what you're going to see a lot more of, just because Podence allows to go with these options up front, to go with 2 premium forwards while still, or premium I say, so basically like 8.5, so like the Ings Jimenez bracket up to the more Werner 9.5, or even 10.5, or 10 million in Vardy's case. Type of team structure. With De Bruyne and Mane, that could easily be Sterling and Salah, or any combination of the the 2 pairs of City and Liverpool assets. The big thing here is that I think the value comes really in defense and in goal. So we have Guaita in there, who has a great run of fixtures. He's going to have a lot of saves that he can make. I think him alongside potentially Mendy from Chelsea, who looked very good in their the game versus Spurs today in the Carabao Cup, also though they did get knocked out of that, but he looked very commanding, very able to shot stop when needed, and the goal that they conceded was through no fault of his own. Guaita has great fixtures after Chelsea, and Palace are kind of similar to Burnley in that they like to play a lot deeper and break on the counter with balls in behind, and they kind of funnel shots into Guaita to make it easier for him to save. That being said, he has made somewhat of a blunder recently. You would think that he may have done better on the Calvert-Lewin goal that was scored in the past game week, but I think overall he's going to be a great shot stopper. In defense, though, is where the real kind of value comes in. We have Lamptey on the bench as well, who can come straight in. But we have, the mid-price, the 5 to 5.5 million, or with the price changes, 5.7 million in Castagne's case, with, great fixtures coming up. So Reece James, even if they concede, but they have Mendy now. Chilwell played in the Carabao Cup. They still have Thiago Silva. Reece James looks to be a great asset, and he's going to be basically, he could be Trent Alexander-Arnold light, so we'll have to see kind of how he kicks on. Roman Saiz has shown that he gets forward for Wolves and is a threat on set pieces and has a great run of fixtures. And Castagne has shown that he can even, provide to Jamie Vardy, who had a lovely finish versus Manchester City in their 5-2 victory. So I think those 3 could provide excellent value. And then the mid-price midfielders, I think Souček is he just can't stop getting in the box. Like he's just a guy who's just always there. Like when you see the ball crossed in, like, oh, Souček's there, and then he bundles his way back 80 yards to clear the ball out of his own box, and then he's back up the other end again and trying to head the ball in. So I think that he could provide great value in any fixture. West Ham still have a bunch of tougher fixtures. Obviously, it's not ideal that Souček versus Castagne isn't great in this team. However, you could technically put in Lamptey if you wanted to, but again, that's still versus Richarlison, so bit of, bit of a, which one do I choose in that situation. But overall, I think this team is very well balanced. It does not have Liverpool defense, which I think is quite valuable. Overall, I think Trent or Robertson, one of those two, plus Mane or Salah is going to be kind of mandatory going forward. But, you can get great value. James has shown that he can, do things that, some of the other 5 million defenders can't. Roman Saiz has shown that for a center back, he likes to get forward quite a lot and is dangerous on set pieces. And Castagne has been an astute signing. And when Pereira comes back in, he's going to switch over to the left-hand side, which means he's going to be playing in and around Harvey Barnes, which just makes it even more exciting on that side as well. So we'll have to see kind of how it all plays out. But I think overall, this team could be, a little bit of a differential, but it's got some value picks in there to where you can kind of balance your team around. And the forward line is something that a lot of people are kind of underestimating, and there is definitely value in there. Kane could easily, be the likes of Werner if you want to go that route. He could be Ings, and then you could put the extra bit of money into Souček or Podence, and you can make them Zaha or Jack Grealish, who have both looked good in recent games. You can even upgrade one of your defenders to the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. It all depends on your team value, it all depends on the structure. But I think overall, this team, although it doesn't look as strong as some of the ones on paper, can provide great value, especially if you had Salah in instead of Mane. You would have a lot of penalty takers in your team, and as we know, it's the season of penalties, so I think this could be a good draft going into game week 4. And the last draft that we have here is a 3-5-2 formation. We've gone with double Wolves defense in Semedo and Roman Saiz. Yes, I know that's a picture of Adama Traore, but they don't have a picture for Nelson Semedo up on the FPL site as of yet, so I just put Adama Traore in there because he's the player that's been playing in Semedo's position, so I thought it'd be the most fitting. We also have De Bruyne and Salah returning to this draft, and we have 2 budget midfielders in Souček and Pereira. Pereira's looked excellent. Even in a West Brom team that's just conceding goals for fun. They've conceded 11 big chances, which isn't great in the long term. However, since he's a guy who can create and he shows that he can do damage and help out the team, especially, against the likes of Chelsea, who are quite open. Southampton, he may be able to do that as well. We do have McCarthy, so there's a bit of conflict there. You may want to go for the likes of Martinez or Matt Ryan. However, you're going to have those things happen. You're going to have your attackers versus your defenders. That's going to happen at some point during the season. And you can potentially rotate, players out if you see fit. So if you think that Souček, Leicester away isn't great for him, then you could put in the likes of Dunn, which we've gone light on the bench. 4 million defender at the time of recording for Burnley, who has Newcastle away, they don't even look like they're going to even be scoring. It must be said that we have 1.7 million in the bank, so you can upgrade and change things. So Dunn could easily be a 5.5 million defender. He could make Pereira a 7.5 million midfielder. There's a bunch of different things you do. You can even go for likes of Phil Foden. That's something that's possible as well with the extra bit of cash. It's just the team structure that we're kind of looking at here, and the price points. The players kind of can, change about and be slightly different because we do have a lot of, money in the bank. We've gone with the pretty stable 2 up front in Jimenez and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 7.4 million, still a bargain in my opinion, especially if he's going to keep getting in the box and keep having one-touch finishes. Jimenez, we know, is on penalties. Wolves have a great run of fixtures, and we've gone with the Wolves triple up, assuming that they get their act together. And then lastly, we have Kai Havertz, who's in there for the price point. He can be upgraded to the likes of Gareth Bale when he comes back for Spurs, who's at 9.5. We're not sure how long Son could be out, but again, only 0.5 away from that move. Can be downgraded to the likes of Ziyech. Can be downgraded or, swapped depending on price points. How much Pulisic and Havertz go up and down, by the time you can go to make that move. Because I think that when Chelsea have their full team, Havertz is going to play in the 10. Could be on penalties. We're not sure yet. Jorginho's taken both their penalties, although Werner didn't take a penalty in the 5 that were taken in the Carabao Cup when he was on the pitch in the penalty shootout. So that could be a bit telling there. Havertz didn't get on the field at all, so he could be the long-term penalty taker. We'll have to see on that front, which would increase his value a little bit in terms of, from a player perspective, not necessarily an FPL value perspective. But at 8.5 million, then you'll have a trade-off. Do you want Havertz, the assister slash penalty taker, or do you want Pulisic, the guy who's creating chances, getting in the box, running in behind the striker, and, you know, getting one-touch finishes and that sort of stuff, almost Sterling-esque for Chelsea when he's back fully fit? Or do you want to go a little bit cheaper and go for more of the deep line creator and the set-piece taker in Ziyech? You'll have to see kind of how that pans out. But I think this structure leaves a lot, you know, more things that you can do. Even the likes of Brewster, who we have on the bench at 4.5 million, if he goes to Sheffield United, you could potentially start rotating him in, or you could even upgrade him, you know, to the likes of Patrick Bamford, Mitrovic, you know, Che Adams, who just recently got an assist and has West Brom at home this week. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do with this formation. I think overall it's a pretty steady formation. It does rely heavily on the fact that Wolves need to be actually decent, and so far they haven't shown that. It seems like a lot of the teams that have come from European competitions have been quite leggy. I mean, the other day, Bayern lost 4-1, I think it was, to Hoffenheim. United hasn't looked great. City got smacked by Leicester. Wolves conceded 4 to West Ham. So a lot of the teams that have played Europe and haven't really had a preseason, or as much of a preseason as you can have looked a bit, you know, kind of tired or a bit out of sorts. But I think games will allow them to come back into it. And I think Wolves will definitely do good. And especially against Fulham, who, you know, let's face it here, they're probably going to end up being in a relegation battle, if not being relegated. And overall, I think that Wolves will come good, especially with the long run that they have. They have to. Their fixtures are too good for them not to. So I think, you know, tripling up on them and doubling in defense is definitely valuable. And I can see a lot of people going for a similar style of draft going into Game Week 4. And that's going to do it for this week's Game Week 4 edition of Wildcard Drafts. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. It really helps out the channel greatly. Also, leave a comment down below as to any players that I may have missed or not, you know, mentioned that may be on your radar for your wildcard team, and turn that notification bell on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Also, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226 on those platforms. Twitter, we post a little bulletin every week as to what videos are coming out on the channel and when we're doing streams. And speaking of streams, we're going to be doing a deadline stream for Game Week 4, 1 hour before the deadline at 5 a.m. EDT over on Twitch. Link is in the description. I usually put a tweet out when we go live and a reminder typically the day before. Also, we're doing our preview streams on Mondays now, not Fridays, at 7 p.m. EDT. So if you've already done one, it will be out on the channel by the time this video goes out. So make sure to give that a watch and kind of see how the preview streams are over on Twitch. And potentially you can stop by when we're live over on Twitch and we can have you know, a whole bunch of fun and be interactive in the chat, which is always good to see different people's opinions for FPL and what they're looking to do for each game week as they go by. But that's going to do it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next one, take care.